How can you not adapt Avatar: The Last Airbender correctly?
How do you fuck that up?
Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 1 tells the story of a boy named Aang, who is the last airbender, the new Avatar, who must master all four elements, restore balance to the world, and stop the Fire Nation from conquering the Northern Water Tribe. Hello and welcome back to another review from HLHReviews. Today I will be reviewing Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 1, the second live-action adaptation of the cartoon. To give you guys some quick information, just real quick, Avatar: The Last Airbender was one of my favorite cartoons I loved to watch whenever it came on. Even to this day, just from rewatching book one, just for this show and for the Shymalan movie, it still holds up to this day. The Shymalan movie that we got back in 2010, definitely one of the worst movies I ever watched, and just, there was just so many baffling decisions that they made, and that movie is seriously one of the cases one of the worst showcases in writing I have ever seen. And now we have Avatar: The Last Airbender by Netflix. Now, I was excited for the potential of this show, while at the same time hoping that this would be better than whatever we got with the Shyamalan movie. I was just hoping that it would be a much better live-action interpretation. And then I got my expectations lowered 4 years ago when it was basically announced that the creators of the cartoon, they both left because they had creative differences with Netflix, and there was a lot of controversy surrounding that. And then even very recently, I think it was a month ago, when it was announced by the producers or the writers or just someone who was doing an interview saying that they were removing Sokka's sexist ways that he had in the cartoon, and that was a huge discussion over Twitter. So yeah, my expectations were completely all over the place, especially when the trailers were, getting me appealed to, go and watch this. So, nevertheless, I walked into the show, my expectations basically in the middle ground, and look, I was disappointed with this show. If you've seen my YouTube shorts, I was being positive, but look, at the end of the day, I just can't mentally get there anymore, because I just can't believe how disappointed I am with this show. And all I'm going to say from here on out is this. Is this a much better live-action interpretation or even adaptation of the cartoon series than what we got with the Shyamalan movie? Yes. But does that make it good? No. But we're going to go over why anyway. And we're starting this off with the positives of Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 1. I did enjoy some of the cast that we got in this show. Mostly everyone was casted well for the characters that they're playing, and they did give good performances. Especially the actor who plays Aang in here, Gordon Cormier. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. So yeah, this kid, definitely a vast improvement than what we got with the kid who played Aang Ong in the Shyamalan movie. Mostly everyone that we get in here, they're giving good performances, and much better performances than what we got in here. You got Dallas Liu Zhao, Ian Osley Sokka, and Paul Sun Hong Lee as Uncle Iroh. Hope I'm pronouncing those names right. So yeah, overall, mostly they were good performances and they did a fine job with what they were given. I thought that the overall visual effects were a massive, just a massive improvement over the Shyamalan movie. I enjoyed seeing how they do water bending, earth bending, fire bending, and air bending in here. It all looked cool, and it's definitely something that you would see in the cartoon, like just the way the elements move and all that. So yeah, visual effects overall, vast improvement than what we got in the Shyamalan movie. The only one change that they did, and don't worry, we're going to talk about them, but the one change that I really did like was that the division that Zuko didn't want to, get annihilated, it ends up being the division that helps him for 3 years to go and capture the Avatar. I really did enjoy that because in the cartoon, in Cartoons Book 1, we get explained by Iroh that Zuko got the scar because he was against seeing one of the Fire Nation's divisions just, getting sacrificed, and him not wanting to fight his father is the reason why he got that scar. And that stuff, it's basically the same here, but except that the division that Zuko was against of, wanting them to get annihilated, they end up being the division that Zuko uses, like especially on the boat, that, help him to capture the Avatar. So yeah, that was a really good change, and I really did like that. Just so sad that the rest of the show didn't do much of that. Now, there were certain scenes that I really did enjoy in this one, like especially with the one with Aang and Zuko as they're both talking, like in the shack in episode 6. You get the ones with Gyatso and Aang. Like, I really did enjoy seeing like Gyatso being like this father figure towards Aang. And I even like seeing that one scene with Zuko being at Iroh's son's funeral, and just seeing him sitting next to Iroh, like just seeing him sitting next to Iroh, who's like clearly mourning for his son's death. That is something that I could easily see Zuko from the cartoon series doing. So yeah, there were moments and individual scenes that I did like in the show. And now let me go into the negatives. And before I criticize the show, let me make this clear. This is not the worst thing I've ever watched. This is not the worst show I've ever watched. This is not even the worst thing I've ever seen Netflix put out. But I am just baffled of the fact that it's been 14 years since the Shyamalan movie, and they could have done something with this property to, make it a great way to watch book 1 in a completely different way, so that, it's for something that for both old fans to watch and even some new fans to get into. No, they did not do that throughout the majority of this season. And one of those reasons is just one of the biggest gripes I have, whether that's filmmaking or just anything of any other entertainment form of medium, is whenever they explain something to give backstory, we don't see the backstory, and we're just told through dialogue. Like, it's just exposition. Like, for example, Princess Yue in the show, she just explains how she was unresponsive when she was born, and her parents, take her to that sacred pond where she's resurrected, or I guess revived, like through the moon spirit. And we never get to see that backstory because it's literally just Yue and Sokka in the scene. It's just Yue talking to Sokka and just her explaining that. Now, that is a practice in Hollywood that I am just so sick and tired of seeing. Because at the end of the day, it's super fucking lazy and just incredibly cheap to make the audience get invested in between, in those two characters. Like, I have seen this stuff way too many times in, like, movies like the Star Wars sequel trilogy and, like, even in Mortal Kombat from 2021 and now this. For the love of God, like, just for any other future writer in Hollywood, stop writing backstory through exposition. It is not exciting whatsoever, and all you're doing by doing that is just showcasing how incredibly lazy you are as a writer. Now, one of my biggest negatives with this show is they make a lot of changes in this show. They made a lot of changes, to adapt the cartoon and put it in live action. Now, look, I did not go into this expecting the same thing that we got from the cartoon. Because, like, I didn't expect it to be 1-to-1. Because at that point, what the fuck's the point of even watching it? Why copy and paste from the cartoon to live action? Just watch the cartoon at that point. But the changes that they made in this season, they all fall under the categories of pointless, don't make any sense in comparison to the cartoon, or they're just changes for the sake of being a change. Like, they changed Boomy's character in episode 5, I think, and they just change him into basically having no faith in Aang and just talking down to him, even though these two characters were friends with each other 100 years ago. They even changed some characters' backstories. Like, the one I did not like at all was Aang. Like, they changed his backstory, and he runs away not just because of, the way they did in the cartoon, where they were going to transfer him over to the Eastern Air Temple, and, Gyatso wasn't going to be there. No, that's not here at all. It's just Aang is just afraid of wanting to be the Avatar, and he's basically expositioning dumping onto Appa. So, how the fuck is a Sky Bison supposed to be relating to Aang? Beats fucking me, because the show just doesn't bother of wanting to make that make any sense, and they just move on from that. They even try to smush like 4 episodes into one, like with episodes like 4 to 5, but the whole experience with that was just rushed as hell. Like, I just didn't understand why they had to smush all those episodes from, like Jet and the one with Boomy and the one with the Southern Air Temple, and they just basically smushed like all those episodes. Oh yeah, and they also don't let Paku teach Katara to waterbend, because there is no backstory with Paku where it involved with the necklace Katara wore, and it's explained that Paku's ex-fiance like made that necklace, and just seeing that necklace alone is what motivates him to not only teach Katara, but also teach Aang at the same time. Yeah, we don't get that whatsoever with this. Now, one of the most pointless changes they made in this show is that they get rid of Sokka, or no, not Sokka, for Christ's sake, Sokka's sexist ways. Now, this was an integral part of his character arc in Book 1, because he ultimately, learns from this by training with the Kyoshi warriors, and this all, leads him, it changes his point of view of women, and, this all leads into him having a love interest with Yue when he gets to the Northern Water Tribe. But yeah, he gets there, and he did not want Yue to sacrifice herself, because he clearly had a love interest with Yue. And he even got to kiss Yue's spirit and being, being comforted that, she would always be there, or she would always be there for him. And, guess what? We don't get any of that in this show, because Sokka, in this version, he barely gets any form of character development. Oh, yeah, do you want to add on to the pointless on why that's just a pointless change? They keep the fact that the Northern Water Tribe, they don't have any of its females being waterbenders to fight, except they're only using their waterbender abilities to heal. So let me get this straight, Netflix. You don't let Sokka to be a sexist because, that's an important part of his character arc in book 1. But you'll keep the Northern Water Tribe sexist. Okay, whatever, Netflix, you're being paid for this show anyway, so whatever. Now, look, even though mostly everyone in this show that's part of the cast, like, they at least gave good performances for the characters that they were playing, but the actress that they picked for Katara, what the fuck were you thinking? Like, I am not bullshitting you. In every single scene that this girl is in, she always has, like, this face. And to make this even worse, even though her line delivery is average, her whole face does not change. Like, it does not, like, change in order to fit with the scene or even to fit how the line was meant to be delivered. No, like, this is literally her face. In every single scene that she's in, she was just by far the worst cast member in this show. And it's so fucking disappointing because everyone around her, like every single other cast member, like they do mostly a better job than her. Like, what the fuck? And now we get on to the show's humor. They try to make the show have like a similar humor as the cartoon, but every single attempt of humor they try to do in this, it is just terrible. Like, there may have been moments in this entire season that may have mildly got a chuckle out of me, like especially the part where Sokka goes, "But hey, why don't you go kick his ass?" That got a chuckle out of me, even though I was kind of laughing at that scene for the wrong reasons. But the rest of the humor on the show, beyond those moments where it got a mild chuckle out of me, it does not work. And to make this even worse, you're just making the show having an identity crisis because the show can't decide whether if it wants to be humorous like the cartoon or like serious like the type of seriousness like Game of Thrones. Especially since this is the same fucking show where we're seeing people being set on fucking fire. And finally, on to the last negative, the characters. The characters in this show, they're all just generic interpretations of the characters from the cartoon. Like, there's nothing much of this version of Aang. Like, even though there's moments of humor that he kind of had in the cartoon, there's not much of this version of Aang that screams anything of him, being heroic or free spirit. No, he's just here to learn how to be the Avatar, and that's pretty much his entire character arc. Like, there's not much of either of these characters that stand out from each other, like Katara and Sokka, and you don't even get to see these three characters having, like, a bond with each other that was, like, in any way similar in line to the type of bond that they had in the cartoon. Like, you don't even get to see Katara and Aang, like, waterbending with each other. Like, you don't even get to see them, like, practice waterbending together. No, you don't see that shit because they're teasing that at the end. Like, what the fuck? That's like watching A New Hope and we don't get to see Luke being trained by Obi-Wan to use the Force up until the point where he has to go blow up the Death Star. Does that make any fucking sense to you? Because it sure as hell doesn't make sense to me. I mean, my God, even the villains were just generic as hell for me. Like, my God, even the villains were just generic as hell. Like, there's not much of this version of Zhao that we get in here that stands out to me or even kind of reminds me of how he was in the cartoon. I mean, I'll say this, he's a much better version of the character than whatever the fuck we got with the Mr. Aziz version in the Shyamalan movie. But again, like, he's generic. Like, there's nothing much about his motivations or even his entire character that stands out to me. I don't understand how you can take characters that are just so beloved from the cartoon and just turn them into these generic interpretations of them. Like, it started with the Shyamalan movie, and now here it is again, because I'm just guessing in the writer's mind, okay, you know what? Fuck it. I can't come up with any better ways to make these characters stand out. These characters are just going to be portrayed the way I want them to, because fuck it. Which all leads into why I just don't understand why it is so hard to adapt this cartoon. Like, you look at book 1 and just see how amazing of a storyline that was. And for you to basically make a generic and bland version of that just baffles the living shit out of me. Like, it just baffles me, and at times pisses me off because of what Shyamalan did and because of what Netflix did to the creators, which, let me tell you, I should have knew right then and there 4 years ago that this show was going to be on a fucking rough path. Or at least tell me, yeah, this show is not going to be any good. Or at least they're not going to make this a good adaptation to the show. But just going back to what I was talking about, that because of what Shyamalan did and because of what Netflix did to the creators of the cartoon, like, this property, like, it's just never going to live up to its potential of being adapted into any other medium form. Like, they had the ability to do something with it. Make it for old fans and even newcomers to enjoy. And this is what they give you. Like, how? Netflix, it's not like you can't make good products for your streaming service. Like, clearly you can. Like, you look at Stranger Things, okay? You look at Wednesday, The Witcher, Cobra Kai. Like, you look at all this shit that this company has made for their streaming service. Like, they can do it. They have the ability to give us something above and beyond of what we expect. And they just didn't do that with this one. Like, you didn't do shit with this. Like, okay, I'll give you this, Netflix. You made a better version of Avatar: The Last Airbender than what Shyamalan did, but you basically cheated to get there because you didn't make this fun. You didn't make this stand out. You just made it a bland and generic version of book 1. So yeah, in conclusion, I didn't enjoy Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 1. Like, I really didn't. Like, if we do get a second season to this, man, they better crank the writing up to 11, because if they don't and you know, we get books 2 and 3, all they're doing is just setting up this version of the cartoon for failure. Because, let me tell you, this is by far one of the most disappointing things I've seen. And all it did for me was just reminding me, oh hey, why are you even watching this, man? Go watch the cartoon instead, it's much better. So if you are a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, even though there are some moments here and there to enjoy, just watch the cartoon because the story is done better than what you're going to get here. So I'm going to have to tell you all to simply don't watch it. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please tell me how you feel about this TV show down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. And to see a lot more videos from me in the near future, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you can get notified every time I upload. I hope you all have a blessed life, and in case I don't ever get to meet you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.